So I just finished watching Metamorphosis, an episode that had great potential and riddled with plot holes. Wow, this episode left me wanting so much more and failed to deliver on every single level. Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and some commissioner lady who is a total bitch. From the get go, I hated this character. And she wasn't even like a fun, nasty character either. She was just annoying and entitled and egocentric and just all the personality traits that I hate. So they're going on the shuttle and they get picked up by some weird space blob cloud thing and taken to a planet where they meet this guy named Cochrane. Now, I am not much of a Star Trek fan. I don't know much about the lore. I've seen the movies and I figured out who this was right away. It was the guy who created Warp Drive, Zefram Cochrane. And they eventually figured it out. But that was one of the weird things. Like me, who barely knows anything about the lore of this series, was able to figure that out right away. Then these characters who their whole sort of, I guess we could say their civilization is built upon so much of what this guy did, and they don't know who he is. That was kind of weird to me. And so Cochrane is now like 200 years old. He left Earth 150 years ago because he wanted to die in space alone. Okay, that right there is setting up for a great character. We could have this really tragic character. Like, why did he want to die in space alone? What drove him to do that? Here's this man who is so important in this storyline and for the history of this world. And that's it. We don't get any real explanation. So, yeah, he's hanging on this planet with this thing called the Companion, which is this blob thing that pulled the ship there. And the plot's a little muddled. Of course, they can't leave. They gotta stay there. He's lonely. That's why it brought them there. They try to fight it. They can't beat it. They tried diplomacy. They build this translator. They find out that it's a girl. And that's where it starts getting really weird. Yeah. So if you thought the beginning stuff was kind of odd, this is where it gets weird. So Cochrane has been living with this thing for 150 years, and now he just finds out that it's a girl, and he can't love it anymore, even though they apparently had some sort of weird relationship going on. And the whole time, the commissioner lady is dying from some sort of disease, and she's supposed to be at some peace talks for a war that's going on or something like that. Again, like, sounds to me like peace talks for a war, a really big thing. Maybe we should focus on that, but nope, she's got a fever and she's annoying and we don't like her. So we have all these plot holes through it, and basically it ends with the companion taking over the commissioner's body, and she stays behind, and they live on the planet together, and Kirk, Spock, and McCoy leave. Really? Like, that... There was so much potential. Like I said, first of all, we have Cochrane. Here's a character who's adding to the history of this world. We've already gotten taste of some of the history with references to the Romulan War and the war that like Khan was involved in. So we're getting some more information about what brought us to this point in history, and I'm really liking that. But they don't develop anything with it. Cochrane as a character is not really developed. He's just there. There was nothing interesting about him, which was kind of a shame because I remember seeing Star Trek First Contact, which, on a side note, was the first PG-13 movie I was allowed to see on my own in the theater. I went with a friend of mine in middle school named Mike. We went and we saw it, and it terrified us. So I kind of had fond memories of that movie. But I knew the character from that. And in that movie, I thought he was a really cool character. He was a lot of fun. He was kind of this drunken slob of a guy. And I love that because he was this flawed hero that all the members of the Enterprise had this vision of him being this great stoic character. And then when you meet him and he's a drunk in a bar, wonderful, wonderful. Because how many of our heroes through history do we tend to think of like that? You know, we tend to think of George Washington as this magnificent guy that we put up on a pedestal. Was he really like that? I doubt it. I mean, the man was a warrior. He was a bloodthirsty maniac, I guess, in battle. So, anyway, that was the Cochrane I liked. The Cochrane in this episode, boring. Friggin' boring. Didn't do anything. And there was like some shoehorned social commentary about how he says, "Oh, I don't want to go on if this is what the future is like." And um, okay. Well, you know what? Fine, then stay behind. Whatever. Um, and the other big thing I had was I saw the ending coming right off the bat. When we had this extra fourth character, this commissioner lady, in there, and then the problem arises. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she's gonna have her body donated, and the space blob is gonna take over. What? I wasn't invested. I didn't care about the characters, and the plot had more holes than Swiss cheese in it. And I got nothing else to say. Stay away from this episode. It's not really worth it. And I will see you guys later.